All right, today we're going to talk about algebra. And algebra basically is just finding missing numbers. And you've actually been doing this since kindergarten. In kindergarten, you got these problems that were like something plus 6 equals 10, or 13 minus what equals 5. The only difference between that and algebra is instead of having these missing boxes, is you're going to have a letter. And that letter is basically that missing box that's holding on to that place. So it could be like a letter X, it could be a letter Y, it could be a letter B, it could be a capital A, it could be any letter, okay? So some of these problems you're gonna look at and you're just gonna know the answer to it. Like something plus 6 equals 10, you're gonna know right away, like, all right, some of you are gonna know, like X is 4, 13 minus something equals 5. Some of you are just gonna figure out real quick that you know the answer because you've had these fact families before, and you could probably figure out that B is going to be equal to 4 because 4 times 2 is 8, and capital A would have to be equal to 15 for that to work out. Okay, so that's algebra. You're just finding missing numbers. What gets tricky is when you don't just know the number and you can't just look at it and solve it. So if you don't just know the number, you have to find another way to solve it. So let's take a look at some adding and subtracting ones. So something plus 12 equals 142. The way you want to go about solving these is you want to see the operation there. You want to do the opposite thing. So if I see plus 12, I really want to take minus 12. And if I do that to one side, because this is an equal sign here, I have to do it to the other side. Okay? And that's going to say, all right, t plus 12 minus 12 is 0. And then 142 minus 12 is 130. All right, so t plus 0, well, that's just t, so that means t has to equal 130. All right, or if I go over here, I see minus 87. I want to do the opposite. I want to add 87. And if I add 87 to one side, I have to do it to both sides because of that equal sign tells me it has to stay equal. So if I take 87 and minus 87, I'm going to get just regular old b, and I'm going to have 13 plus 87, and that's actually equal to 100. And you can always go back and check and see if you did it right. I could put the original number, 100, minus 87. Does that equal 13? Sure does. I could check my work too. All right, so let's try one more. This one has decimals in it. If you have decimals, you do the exact same thing. A minus 4.2 equals 6.3. Well, I don't know what that missing number is. I'm not going to guess and check, so that could take a while. I see minus, so I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to add 4.2 to both sides. All right, and if I add 4.2 to both sides, this side I get a plus 0, which is just a. And over here, I get 6.3, or 6 3/10 plus 4 2/10. And I could add that up, and I could line up my decimals, and I would get 10 5/10. So a would have to equal 10 5/10. All right, so excuse me. That's just a quick explanation of algebra. You're finding a missing number, and that missing number is represented by a letter. All right, and the way that you're going to find those missing numbers is by doing the opposite operation of what you see. All right, with adding and subtracting, it's pretty clear to see what you're going to be doing. With division and multiplication, it's a little bit trickier because multiplication and division can look a couple different ways. When we have multiplication, sometimes you're not even going to see it. Okay, if there's a hidden operation, it's multiply. This is 7 times m equals 49. So what times 7 will give me 49? Well, that's one some of you might just know is 7 times 7. But if I didn't know that fact, this doesn't have an operation in there. And it's not a divide because I would see a divide sign. So the only hidden operation we can have is multiply. So here I would take 7 and I would divide both sides by 7. All right, and I would get 49 divided by 7 is 7. All right, let's try another one. So if I had like 4y equals 56, what times 4 would give me 56? Well, I don't know. So I'm going to divide both sides by 4. And if I divide both sides by 4, I'll have my answer. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and that's times y. Well, 1 times y is just y. All right. And then I have 56 divided by 4. That's a problem I have to work out either on a calculator or I have to work out over here on the side. All right, I could divide those. All right, I got 14. Hi, Isla. All right, so with multiplication, you're going to use division to solve. because you want to use the opposite, and those things are opposites of each other. All right, last one here. We'll do a couple quick division ones. Division, you will see one of two ways. Okay, it could look like that, or it could look like this. That fraction bar means divide. So these two things are the same thing. I'm just writing them in two different ways. W divided by 8 equals 1.5, or W divided by 8 equals 1.5. I want to get rid of this divide by 8. So I got to think about what's the opposite of divide by 8. I got to multiply by 8. Okay, over here, same thing. I got to multiply by 8. Same problem. Okay, 8 divided by 8 is 1, so this is just giving W over here. And 1.5 times 8 would give me 12. All right, and over here, 1.5 times 8 would give me 12. So if you see divide, you're going to multiply. If you see multiply, you're going to divide. You're going to do the opposite operation. All right, so let's try one more here. If I had R divided by 3 equals 16, I want to get rid of this divide by 3. I want to find out what R is. I don't want to guess and check, because I could guess and check for a long time. So divide by 3, I want to do the opposite. I want to do times 3. I just got to find out what 16 times 3 is, and I'll be done, because 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 1R is just R. So these things are going to kind of cancel each other out. 16 times 3, if I work that out, is 48. Okay? So when you're doing algebra, sometimes you're going to know the answer just by looking at it. Other times you're going to have to do a little bit of work. Okay? And that little bit of work is going to be using what's called opposite operations. Okay? If you see add, you're going to want to subtract to find the answer. If you see multiply, you're going to want to divide to find the answer. All right, thanks.